Tonight, less than a year until the 2022 midterms, and there's growing concern by some about the number of career election officials who are facing threats or feeling unsafe on the job, in some cases opting to resign entirely. So what does this mean for our elections going forward? Elizabeth Schulze reports.
I think everyone should accept that we're at a very dangerous juncture right now, when you have a majority of my party believe that the 2020 election was fraudulent.
It was a batch of votes here in Philadelphia, the birthplace of American democracy, that tipped the 2020 presidential election toward Joe Biden, putting a longtime election official in the spotlight for doing his job.
For us, it's really never about who wins and who loses. It's really about counting the votes.
For days, Republican City Commissioner Al Schmidt had been holed up in the convention center, making sure every vote, mail-in or in person, was counted.
It's the foundation of the whole thing.
That every vote counts.
That every vote counts and that everyone's voice is heard. And at the end of the day, you have a winner and you have a loser. And the loser accepts defeat because they lost. And in Pennsylvania, the election wasn't even close.
Schmidt defended the vote count, making himself a target. He became one of many career election officials facing increasing threats, fueling what some say is an unprecedented exodus.
There is, I'm sure, no election official in the country that when they ran for the job ever contemplated death threats, let alone death threats to their children, as being part of that job description.
4 days after the election was called, former President Trump singled out Schmidt in a tweet, saying without evidence, he refuses to look at a mountain of corruption and dishonesty. That's when the phone calls and messages threatening Schmidt ramped up.
They became a lot more specific, a lot more graphic, largely targeted my family, my kids, my little kids.
What were some of the most alarming threats that you personally received?
Well, I mean, they got pretty specific. I mean, mentioning my children by name, my address, pictures of my house. Like, the people who sent them had clearly done their homework.
Schmidt says he won't seek another term in 2023. In Pennsylvania, nearly half of county election directors have resigned since 2019. Many cite personal and violent threats.
When they see what they're facing, it becomes much harder to get good people to do these jobs.
What's happening here in Pennsylvania is part of a wider trend across the country. State and local election board members are facing ongoing threats just for trying to do their jobs.
There are nights where we have slept with sheriff's deputies outside of the house because of these threats.
Bill Gates is a Republican on the Board of Supervisors in Maricopa County, Arizona, a hotbed of election misinformation, despite several recounts and audits confirming President Biden's win.
And Mr. Gates, you are now recognized.
Gates defended the integrity of the results under oath in Congress.
This is without a doubt the biggest threat to our democracy in my lifetime.
Now, more than a year after the election, he says he's still targeted daily online, called a traitor who should be jailed.
I never could have imagined that this would still be going on a year later.
It's not just local election officials in swing states under threat. A recent survey by the Brennan Center for Justice found 1 in every 3 election officials nationwide feel unsafe at work, and nearly 1 in 5 say threats to their lives are a job-related concern.
We're seeing election officials from all across the country decide that they no longer want to serve in these positions where they work crazy hours, they don't make that much money, and they are subjected to death threats.
Democrat Roxanna Moritz resigned as chief election officer in Scott County, Iowa, in the wake of the 2020 election, after more than a decade on the job.
The personal attacks on each and every one of us has made some of us aware of this maybe isn't where we want to be. You're going to see an exodus from some of us.
Election experts warn about the loss of institutional knowledge after this wave of resignations from roles that are historically above the political fray.
Do we have any sense yet who is replacing those workers who are leaving?
And I think one of the concerns is, we've seen, for instance, some candidates for Secretary of State, which is generally the chief election official in the state, who have come out and said that they basically believe in the big lie.
Bill Gates in Maricopa County insists he won't step down.
And there's nothing more important I've ever done professionally than fighting for democracy.
USA! USA! He fears another January 6th, where rioters were convinced to violently storm the U.S. Capitol to disrupt the certification of the election results if elected officials don't stand up to the big lie.
I have to plead with these folks to listen to me, to the truth that I'm telling them, because they've been told lies for a year now and they believe it.
What's your message to members of your own party who are still not distancing themselves from this lie that the election was stolen, that the results were rigged?
I think there is an additional obligation on Republicans like myself to speak the truth about the 2020 election and to stand up in the face of all of these lies, regardless of what the consequences are for any of us.
Even if it means endangering yourself to try to do that?
Well, with our democracy on the line, pretty much anything is worth it.
Our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze for that report.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.